Before we get into today's unfolding chaos, pause and take a breath because this is going to be a lot. Make sure you're subscribed to NewsDecoded. If you value clear, fearless truth over noise and distraction, then you're exactly where you need to be. Hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone who still believes facts matter. Let's break through the fog together. Now, let's talk about what's really happening out there.
The Middle East is on edge once again. Tensions have exploded, literally in Syria. An airstrike struck the presidential palace in Damascus. Yes, you heard that right. A direct hit on a symbol of power and government control. Reports suggest Israeli warplanes conducted the attack, citing escalating concerns over the treatment of the Druze minority in Syria's southern region. This isn't just a flare-up. It's a full-blown escalation. The images from the ground are harrowing. The palace, once an emblem of political authority, is now a smoldering shell. Syria is spiraling deeper into chaos.
This strike comes on the heels of a controversial meeting that occurred months earlier between former US President Donald Trump and Syria's interim leader. Trump described the man as tough and someone he believed could stabilize Syria. A bold claim, to say the least, but more baffling than that. The Syrian interim president reportedly tried to entice Trump with promises of a hotel project in Damascus, a hotel in a war zone. The optics of that moment are difficult to ignore. Shifting to US politics.
And brace yourself, this part is no less jarring. Donald Trump is turning his anger inward, specifically toward his own supporters. Yes, you heard correctly. In an extended, unfiltered social media post, Trump lashed out at individuals he once courted and celebrated. He referred to some of them as really bad people, weaklings, and even past supporters. Why?
Because they expressed interest in or belief in what's now being labeled the Jeffrey Epstein files.
Trump's words were biting. He called the Epstein investigations a hoax, dismissing every angle, despite long-standing, well-documented reports of Epstein's ties to powerful elites, including Trump himself.
His post went on to draw wild connections, lumping the Epstein files with what he called fake scandals, like the Steele dossier, the infamous laptop saga, and the Russia probe. In his eyes, this is just one more con cooked up by what he terms the radical left.
But then came the real kicker. Trump wrote, and we quote, "Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking about our credible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore."
Let's pause there. Think about what that means. Trump, the man who built a political movement around loyalty, is now openly rejecting his own base for believing that Epstein's crimes were real. He's drawing a hard line in the sand. You're either with Trump, or you believe the entire Epstein saga is fabricated. There is no middle ground.
And yet his allies aren't backing away from this stance. One close associate, attorney Mike Davis, took to social media to echo Trump's sentiments with even more aggression. His message to Epstein truth seekers, "Get the hell out, that's the tone."
He made it crystal clear that if anyone dares to believe Epstein was involved in sex trafficking, or that those in power were complicit, then they no longer belong in the MAGA movement.
Now let's take a step back and consider what this means. We're talking about an issue with vast legal and moral implications. Sex trafficking involving minors protected by a web of political, financial and celebrity power. And somehow, speaking about it now makes you an enemy of the very political movement that once promised to drain the swamp.
A recent CNN poll laid bare how the American public feels about all this. When asked whether they were satisfied with how the Epstein case has been handled, just 3% said yes. That's not a typo. 3%. An overwhelming 50% of Americans said they were dissatisfied, with nearly another 30% saying the information released so far simply doesn't matter anymore. People feel stonewalled, left in the dark. And yet, Trump and his allies are doubling down on silence and deflection. Meanwhile, the absurdity doesn't stop there. In what can only be described as surreal, new footage surfaced of Trump attending a FIFA World Cup event. In it, he appears to pocket one of the players' medals, yes, physically steal it, and stroll off with it like it was his prize to claim. The head of FIFA is visibly disturbed in the footage, unsure of how to respond. This wasn't staged. This happened in front of cameras. What do you call that behavior? Because for many watching, it looked more like kleptomania than statesmanship. In Washington, things are not running any more smoothly.
The Secretary of Transportation, Mark Duffy, testified before Congress today, and when asked how many air traffic controllers had left the FAA since January, he couldn't answer. Not even close. Zero figures, no estimates, no accountability, just a lot of dodging and stammering. That's not just a bureaucratic error, that's a public safety concern.
And it's not an isolated one. Across federal agencies, leadership is crumbling and confidence is eroding. The American public sees it. They feel it when they fly, when they go to the grocery store, when they open their bills. Economically, the Trump effect is beginning to show its cracks.
The Wall Street Journal published data that reveals tariffs and rigid immigration policies are fueling inflation and hurting jobs. It's basic cause and effect. And yet, despite this, Trump continues to promote a fantasy of $1.98 per gallon gas and booming prosperity. Europe sees through this. In response, they're preparing targeted responses, new taxes on United States tech firms, tighter restrictions on American companies bidding for public contracts, and even curbs on United States investments within the EU.
Global trust in the United States economy is weakening, and that's not just rhetoric. The 30-year Treasury yield just hit 5.03%, the highest in months. That's a warning bell if ever there was one.
At the international level, Trump continues to bluster. Just days ago, he extended what he called a 50-day countdown for Vladimir Putin, before he would consider imposing secondary sanctions on Russia. The timing couldn't be worse, or honestly more revealing. Putin himself had previously said he needed 60 days to complete a successful summer offensive in Ukraine. In essence, Trump handed him the timeline on a silver platter. 60 days minus 10 equals 50 days plus cover. Think about that. Think hard. In contrast, some global leaders are learning that standing up to Trump, rather than appeasing him, actually boosts their approval. In Brazil, for example, President Lula saw his support soar after Trump's tariff threats. Around the world, alliances are forming that don't include the US. Nations are coordinating without Washington. They're buying time, buying trade, and building economies together, while America bickers with itself and buries its head in denial.
And as for trade, despite grand claims of sweeping deals with countries like Vietnam and Indonesia, no documents have been released. None. When asked about it, Trump responded, "Why would I show them to you? Trade deals are complex. They require documentation, diplomacy, and transparency. What's happening now is smoke and mirrors."
And finally, there's the matter of disaster response. FEMA is under fire yet again. In a recent interview, a senior official tried to reassure the public that states would no longer need to beg Washington for aid during natural disasters. But when pressed, she offered no new plan, no clear process, just vague platitudes and references to empowering states.
All of this leads us to one unavoidable conclusion. The American political and economic landscape is being reshaped, radically, chaotically, and dangerously. Trust is being eroded, institutions are under siege, and truth is harder than ever to find. That's why NewsDecoded exists. No noise, no fluff. Just clarity, context, and courage. If this resonated with you, let us know. Hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment below. We're building something together, something grounded in truth, not allegiance. Let's get this message out. Let's keep decoding the world. Thanks for watching. This is NewsDecoded, where truth still matters.